What arrives too early rarely stays. Most people believe manifestations fail because they are doing something wrong. They repeat techniques, they correct their thoughts, they try harder, but delays are not caused by lack of belief. They are caused by something far more subtle. This archive exists to expose it. The real reason your manifestations are delayed. A hidden library archive. Chapter 1. Why nothing is actually blocked. The first illusion most people carry is the idea that their manifestations are blocked. Blocked implies resistance from the outside, a closed door, an opposing force, something actively saying no. But manifestation does not work that way. Nothing is blocking your manifestation. There is no external force holding it back. There is no universal delay mechanism punishing you. There is no invisible wall stopping things from arriving. What you're experiencing is not blockage. It is misalignment between timing and structure. Most people assume manifestation responds to desire. They assume wanting something strongly enough should accelerate results. But desire does not create arrival. Structure does. Structure determines when something can exist without collapse. This is why manifestation feels unpredictable to so many people. Sometimes things arrive quickly. Sometimes they take years. Sometimes they never arrive at all. The difference is not worthiness, it is capacity. Manifestation does not ask, "Do you want this?" It asks, "Can this be held inside your current structure?" Structure includes identity, emotional regulation, expectations, habits, and tolerance for change. Until these elements are coherent, manifestation remains in delay, not denial. Delay is not failure. Delay is preparation, but preparation is rarely conscious. People keep visualizing outcomes that their nervous system cannot yet sustain. They imagine abundance while remaining emotionally calibrated to scarcity. They imagine ease while remaining addicted to tension. They imagine success while fearing visibility. These contradictions create instability, and instability delays arrival, not as punishment, but as protection. If something arrived before the structure could support it, it would destabilize the system. The result would be loss, regression, or chaos, not fulfillment. This is why many people experience almost manifestations. Opportunities appear, then disappear. Momentum builds, then collapses. Something feels close, but never solid. This is not the universe teasing you. It is your structure signaling unreadiness. The invisible system that organizes reality prioritizes stability over speed. It does not rush outcomes that would overwhelm identity. This is the part rarely explained. Manifestation is not about making things happen faster. It is about becoming stable enough for them to arrive permanently. Until permanence is possible, delay remains. Most people misinterpret delay as rejection. They respond by forcing belief, repeating affirmations louder, or blaming themselves for low vibration. This response creates more tension. Tension does not accelerate manifestation, it increases delay, because tension signals instability. The system does not move toward instability, it waits. Waiting feels personal, but it is structural. This is why two people can desire the same outcome and experience completely different timelines. One receives quickly, the other waits indefinitely. The difference is not effort, it is internal organization. Internal organization determines readiness. Readiness does not mean perfection, it means coherence. Coherence is when identity, expectation, emotion, and behavior agree with each other. When they do not, delay occurs automatically. This delay is intelligent. It prevents collapse, it prevents self-sabotage, it prevents loss disguised as success. Understanding this shifts everything. Once you stop fighting the delay, you begin to listen to it. Delay contains information. It reveals what part of the structure has not yet adapted. Until that adaptation happens, manifestation remains suspended, not because it is denied, but because it is waiting for stability. This chapter exists to remove the illusion of blockage. Nothing is blocked. It is simply not yet safe. Chapter 2. The invisible timing system. Most people believe timing is random. They assume manifestations arrive when the universe decides, when luck intervenes, or when belief reaches a certain intensity. This belief creates confusion because it places timing outside of comprehension. But timing is not arbitrary. There is a system behind it, quiet, consistent, and deeply internal. This system does not respond to urgency. It does not respond to repetition of desire. It does not respond to emotional pleading. It responds to stability. Every manifestation exists within a timing field. That field is not governed by calendars or dates, but by internal readiness. Readiness is not a conscious decision. It is an unconscious state. This is why people can feel ready long before they actually are. Readiness is not enthusiasm. It is not hope. It is not motivation. Readiness is the absence of internal contradiction. When internal contradiction exists, timing stretches. Contradiction happens when one part of the system wants change, while another part is organized around preserving familiarity. The mind asks for something new, while the nervous system remains calibrated to the old. This misalignment creates delay automatically. The invisible timing system does not punish contradiction. It pauses movement until coherence returns. This pause is often misinterpreted as resistance from reality. People assume the world is testing them, or that something external is interfering. In truth, the interference is internal. Timing does not ask whether you desire an outcome. It asks whether your system can remain regulated once the outcome exists. Many people unconsciously associate certain outcomes with instability, wealth with loss of control, visibility with criticism, love with abandonment, ease with boredom, responsibility with exhaustion. These associations are rarely conscious, but the timing system detects them. When an outcome is associated with threat, timing slows down, not to deny the outcome, but to prevent overload. This is why some people manifest small things quickly, but struggle with larger changes. Small changes do not destabilize identity. Larger ones require internal reorganization. Reorganization takes time, not because the universe moves slowly, but because identity resists sudden expansion. Identity is conservative by nature. Its primary function is preservation, not growth. Growth is tolerated only when it does not threaten internal equilibrium. This explains a common paradox. People say they want change, yet feel exhausted by the idea of maintaining it. The timing system responds to that exhaustion. If an outcome would demand constant vigilance, overperformance, or self-betrayal to sustain, timing delays it. This is not sabotage, it is intelligence. The system prioritizes sustainability over novelty. Many manifestations arrive late because the person has not yet adjusted their baseline, their emotional baseline, their self-expectation baseline, their tolerance baseline. Baseline determines timing. If your baseline is stress, calm outcomes destabilize you. If your baseline is urgency, stability feels foreign. If your baseline is struggle, ease creates guilt. Timing waits until the baseline shifts. This shift cannot be forced. It happens through repetition of new internal states, through normalization, through lived experience. This is why techniques alone fail. Techniques operate at the surface level. Timing operates at the structural level. You can visualize an outcome perfectly while still being structurally incompatible with its permanence. Timing measures permanence. It asks, will this remain? Will this stabilize? Will this integrate without collapse? If the answer is uncertain, delay continues. This delay often frustrates people because it feels passive. They want something to do, something to fix, something to optimize. But timing is not accelerated by effort, it is accelerated by alignment. Alignment is slow because it involves letting go of internal habits that once provided safety. It requires replacing familiar tension with unfamiliar calm. It requires trusting regulation over adrenaline. Many people delay their manifestations by staying busy. Activity becomes a distraction from adjustment. Movement replaces integration. The timing system does not confuse movement with readiness. It waits for quiet shifts. This is why some manifestations arrive suddenly, without warning. From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, it follows a long period of silent reorganization. The person did not try harder. They stabilized. Once stabilization occurs, timing collapses forward. What once took years suddenly takes weeks or days. This suddenness creates the illusion of miracles, but nothing miraculous happened. The structure finally matched the outcome. When structure and outcome align, timing becomes irrelevant. Arrival feels natural, unremarkable, almost obvious in hindsight. People often say, "I don't know why this took so long." The answer is simple. It took exactly as long as identity needed to reorganize. Understanding this reframes delay completely. Delay is not absence of progress. It is evidence of ongoing internal calibration. The timing system is always working in your favor, even when it feels like waiting. It does not respond to impatience, it responds to readiness, and readiness is built quietly. Chapter 3. When desire becomes the delay. Desire is often misunderstood. Most people believe desire accelerates manifestation. They are taught that wanting something strongly is proof of readiness, commitment, and alignment. The more intense the desire, the more likely the outcome should arrive. But intensity is not readiness. In many cases, intensity is evidence of absence. Desire grows loud when something feels distant. It amplifies when the internal system perceives lack. This is not wrong. It is natural, but it has consequences. The system that governs manifestation does not respond to how much you want something. It responds to how normalized that thing already feels inside you. This is the contradiction most people never see. When desire is charged with urgency, it signals that the outcome still feels foreign, and anything that feels foreign destabilizes identity. Identity resists destabilization. This resistance is subtle. It does not appear as refusal, it appears as delay. The more someone fixates on an outcome, the more they reinforce its perceived distance. Wanting becomes a reminder that the thing is not yet integrated. The internal message is not, "This is coming," but "This is missing." Missing creates tension. Tension slows integration. This is why people who desire something less intensely often receive it faster. Not because they care less, but because their system is not broadcasting lack. Their desire is quiet. Quiet desire does not interfere with structure. Loud desire does. Most manifestation teachings confuse emotional charge with alignment. They encourage people to amplify desire without addressing the structural mismatch underneath. This creates frustration. People feel they are doing everything right, yet nothing moves. They try to want harder, believe stronger, visualize longer. Each attempt reinforces the sense that something is still out of reach. The system reads this clearly. It reads, "Not yet stable." Stability is not created by wanting. It is created by familiarity. When something feels familiar, desire relaxes. It becomes calm. Expectation replaces urgency. Expectation does not chase. Expectation assumes. This is the difference between hoping and knowing. Hope is active. Knowing is passive. Manifestation responds to knowing. This is why certain things arrive without effort. They were never charged with desperation. They fit seamlessly into identity. The same logic applies to delays. If an outcome would redefine how you see yourself, how others see you, or how responsibility operates in your life, the system requires identity to expand first. Expansion cannot happen under pressure. Pressure contracts identity. Contraction delays expansion. Many people unknowingly delay their manifestations by attaching their self-worth to the outcome. When the outcome becomes proof of value, safety, or success, it carries emotional weight. That weight destabilizes the system. The system does not move heavy objects quickly. It reinforces the foundation first. This reinforcement often happens invisibly. Old beliefs loosen, emotional responses soften, reactions slow down, expectations adjust. None of this looks like progress from the outside, but internally everything is reorganizing. The delay is doing its work. The most overlooked truth is this: desire is not bad, but attachment to timing is. Attachment creates friction. Friction slows movement. The system prefers smooth integration over forced arrival. This is why the most effective shift is not reducing desire, but removing urgency. Urgency signals that identity has not yet caught up. Once identity catches up, desire naturally quiets, and when desire quiets, arrival accelerates. This feels paradoxical, but it is consistent. People often say manifestations arrive when they let go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means releasing the internal pressure that was broadcasting instability. The system responds immediately to that release. Not because you stopped wanting, but because wanting stopped interfering. This is why chasing manifestation techniques often backfires. Techniques become tools of control rather than alignment. Alignment does not control, it cooperates. Cooperation requires trust. Trust is impossible when desire is frantic. The system waits for trust. Once trust stabilizes, timing collapses. This is the quiet truth. The thing you want is not delayed because it is far away. It is delayed because your desire is still louder than your readiness. When readiness becomes louder than desire, arrival is inevitable. Chapter 4. The Identity Barrier. No one sees. Every manifestation encounters an invisible boundary. This boundary is not external. It is not imposed by circumstances. It is not created by lack of opportunity. It is created by identity. Identity is the most underestimated force in manifestation. People talk about thoughts, emotions, vibration, belief, but identity governs all of them. Identity defines what feels normal, what feels safe, what feels sustainable. Anything that threatens these parameters is slowed down automatically. The system that organizes reality does not negotiate with identity. It adapts to it. This is why people can intellectually understand a concept, yet remain unable to live it. Understanding does not rewrite identity. Repetition does. Identity is built through patterns that repeat over time, patterns of reaction, patterns of expectation, patterns of self-perception. These patterns become internal laws. Once a pattern becomes law, reality organizes around it. Manifestation does not override these laws. It works through them. This is where most delays originate. People attempt to manifest outcomes that exist outside their current identity bandwidth. The desire is genuine, but the identity has not expanded enough to hold the result without fracture. Fracture is what the system avoids at all costs. If an outcome would force you to constantly perform, defend, explain, justify, or over-adapt, it is not aligned with identity yet. The system detects this immediately. It does not ask whether you want the outcome. It asks whether you would remain coherent after receiving it. Coherence is the agreement between who you are and what you experience. When experience exceeds identity, coherence breaks. This break shows up as sabotage, anxiety, loss, exhaustion, or regression. The system delays arrival to prevent this. Many people unknowingly try to bypass identity by using techniques. They affirm outcomes that conflict with their self-image. They visualize realities they do not recognize themselves inhabiting. This creates internal dissonance. Dissonance signals instability. The system waits. This waiting is often misinterpreted as stagnation. But internally, something else is happening. Identity is being tested. Every delay asks a silent question. Can you remain yourself in this outcome? If the answer is uncertain, identity must evolve first. Identity evolution is subtle. It rarely looks dramatic. It happens through quiet shifts in tolerance. Tolerance for calm. Tolerance for visibility. Tolerance for responsibility. Tolerance for ease. Many people desire abundance but remain intolerant of calm. They equate calm with emptiness, so abundance feels unsafe. Others desire success but remain intolerant of attention. Visibility feels threatening, so success delays itself. Others desire freedom but remain intolerant of uncertainty. Control feels safer, so freedom remains distant. These intolerances are identity-level constraints. Until they shift, timing does not. This explains why personal growth often precedes manifestation, even when growth is not intentional. Life introduces small challenges, exposures and expansions that stretch identity gradually. The system prefers gradual expansion over sudden rupture. Rupture destabilizes. The identity barrier is not a punishment, it is a safeguard. It ensures that when something arrives, it can stay. People often ask why they lose what they once manifested. The answer is usually simple. Identity was not yet stable enough to support permanence. Temporary alignment created temporary results. Permanent results require permanent identity expansion. This is why sustainable manifestation is slow at first, but accelerates later. Once identity expands, outcomes no longer need to be negotiated. They flow. Identity does not expand through force. It expands through normalization. Normalization happens when something is repeated without emotional charge. When new states stop feeling novel and start feeling ordinary. This is why patience is not passive. It is formative. Patience allows identity to reorganize without resistance. The moment identity accepts a new baseline, delay ends, not gradually. Immediately, people often describe this as a sudden breakthrough, but the breakthrough was preceded by a long internal preparation that went unnoticed. The identity barrier dissolved quietly. Once dissolved, reality no longer had to wait. This chapter exists to expose the true gatekeeper of manifestation. It is not belief, it is not effort, it is identity. And identity changes slowly, until it doesn't. Chapter 5. The nervous system delay mechanism. Most people believe manifestation is a mental process. They focus on thoughts, beliefs, affirmations, and imagination. While these elements play a role, they are not the deciding factor. The deciding factor is physiological. The nervous system determines what is safe to receive, safe to hold, and safe to maintain. Before any manifestation can stabilize, it must pass through a biological filter. This filter does not operate through logic. It operates through regulation. A regulated nervous system signals safety. A dysregulated nervous system signals threat. The system that organizes reality responds to this signal with absolute precision. If an outcome would place the nervous system into chronic dysregulation, arrival is delayed. This delay is not psychological. It is biological. The nervous system is designed to prioritize survival over expansion. Anything perceived as destabilizing is slowed down, regardless of how desirable it appears cognitively. This is why people can consciously want something while subconsciously resisting it. The resistance does not show up as fear in the mind, it shows up as tension in the body. Tension is a signal. When the nervous system is accustomed to stress, struggle, urgency, or instability, calm outcomes feel unsafe. Ease feels unfamiliar. Stability feels suspicious. This creates a paradox. People desire peace but are biologically calibrated to chaos. The system detects this mismatch. Manifestation does not override the nervous system, it adapts to it. If abundance would increase responsibility beyond regulation capacity, delay occurs. If visibility would trigger hypervigilance, delay occurs. If love would activate attachment wounds, delay occurs, not as punishment, as prevention. The nervous system does not differentiate between physical danger and emotional overload. Both are processed as threat. This is why affirmations fail when the body is not prepared. The words may say safe, but the body says alert. The system listens to the body. Many people unknowingly train their nervous system to associate desire with stress. They chase outcomes with urgency, overthinking, and constant monitoring. This reinforces dysregulation. The more they try, the more the body tightens. Tightness delays arrival. Arrival requires openness. Openness requires regulation. This is the missing link in most manifestation teachings. Regulation is not relaxation, it is tolerance. Tolerance for stillness, tolerance for receiving, tolerance for not fixing, tolerance for things working without effort. These states feel threatening to a system conditioned to struggle, so the system delays outcomes until tolerance increases. This increase happens through lived experience, not mental effort, through moments of safety that are repeated, through environments that do not demand hypervigilance, through boundaries that reduce overload. When regulation increases, desire no longer feels urgent. It feels neutral. Neutrality accelerates manifestation. Neutrality signals safety. This is why many people experience manifestations after periods of rest, detachment, or emotional resolution. The nervous system finally relaxes its grip. Once relaxed, timing collapses. The system does not require perfection. It requires capacity. Capacity is built slowly. People often misinterpret slow progress as failure. In reality, their nervous system is learning a new baseline. A baseline where receiving does not equal danger. Once this baseline stabilizes, arrival becomes automatic. This explains why some people experience rapid transformation after long stagnation. The stagnation was not inactivity, it was recalibration. The nervous system reached a new tolerance threshold. At that moment, delay ends. Manifestation accelerates not when you think differently, but when your body no longer braces for impact. This is the quiet truth behind delayed manifestations. They are not waiting for belief. They are waiting for regulation. Until the body feels safe, timing remains slow. Once the body feels safe, nothing holds back. Chapter 6. Why letting go works, and why most people do it wrong. Letting go is one of the most repeated concepts in manifestation. It is also one of the most misunderstood. Most people interpret letting go as giving up desire, suppressing hope, or pretending they no longer care. This misunderstanding creates confusion because suppression is not release. Suppression creates tension. Tension delays manifestation. True letting go has nothing to do with indifference. It is a structural shift. Letting go means releasing the internal demand that something must happen in order for stability to exist. It is not about abandoning the outcome. It is about removing the pressure placed on timing. Pressure is detected by the system immediately. Pressure signals instability. When people say things arrived after they let go, what actually happened was not loss of desire. It was loss of urgency. Urgency collapsed. The system read safety. safety accelerates timing. Most people attempt to let go at the mental level. They tell themselves they no longer care, while internally monitoring results constantly. This creates contradiction. The system responds to contradiction with delay. Letting go is not a thought. It is a physiological state. It occurs when the nervous system no longer associates the outcome with survival, worth, or safety. When receiving or not receiving no longer feels like a threat. This state cannot be faked. The system detects authenticity. This is why forced detachment does not work. Pretending to let go while secretly hoping reinforces instability. The system waits. Real letting go happens when identity no longer negotiates its value with the outcome. When the outcome becomes optional rather than necessary. Optional outcomes integrate faster. Necessity slows everything. When something is necessary, it carries weight. Weight destabilizes structure. Structure must reinforce before arrival. Letting go removes weight. This is why people often experience manifestations after emotional resolution. A breakup, a realization, a shift in self-respect, a boundary. Something internally settles. The outcome no longer carries emotional debt. The system reads this as readiness. Many people confuse letting go with passivity. In reality, letting go requires deep internal reorganization. It requires releasing patterns of control, hypervigilance, and self-monitoring. These patterns once served survival. Letting go is not abandoning them lightly. It is replacing them with regulation. Regulation is the foundation of release. When regulation stabilizes, the outcome no longer feels like a threat. Timing accelerates naturally. This is why letting go cannot be rushed. It happens when the system feels safe enough to stop scanning for danger. Danger often hides behind desire. Desire becomes dangerous when it carries expectation of rescue, when people believe an outcome will save them, complete them, or finally make things right. The system delays rescue fantasies. Rescue destabilizes autonomy. Manifestation responds to wholeness, not rescue. When you no longer need the outcome to fix you, the outcome becomes compatible with you. Compatibility accelerates timing. This is the quiet paradox. The moment you stop needing something, it becomes possible to receive it, not because you rejected it, but because you no longer load it with responsibility. Responsibility delays manifestation. Outcomes are not designed to carry identity, safety, or worth. They are designed to integrate into an already stable system. Letting go means returning responsibility to the self. When responsibility is reclaimed, outcomes stop being heavy. Light outcomes move faster. This explains why people often receive manifestations when they redirect focus inward, when they invest in stability rather than chasing results. The system does not require abandonment of desire. It requires release of dependence. Dependence creates friction. Release removes friction. The mistake most people make is trying to let go while still internally negotiating. They want to stop caring, but they still check. They still measure. They still compare. This keeps urgency alive. True letting go feels boring. There is no drama, no anticipation, no countdown. This boredom is not apathy, it is normalization. Normalization is the final signal of readiness. Once something feels normal, timing stops being relevant. This is why letting go works. Not because you surrendered the outcome, but because you stopped interfering with structure. Chapter 7. When alignment finally locks in. Alignment is not a feeling. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings surrounding manifestation. People wait to feel aligned. They search for excitement, certainty, or emotional clarity, believing these signals indicate readiness. But alignment does not announce itself. It locks in quietly. Alignment is a structural state. It occurs when internal systems stop arguing with each other, when desire, identity, nervous system, and expectation no longer pull in different directions. This state feels unremarkable. There is no rush, no urgency, no emotional spike. In fact, many people miss alignment entirely because they expect intensity. But intensity belongs to desire, not alignment. Alignment belongs to coherence. When alignment locks in, something subtle changes. The constant mental checking stops. The internal negotiations quiet down. The outcome is no longer rehearsed mentally. It simply exists as a neutral possibility. This neutrality is the clearest signal of readiness. When alignment is incomplete, people constantly measure distance. They wonder how close they are, what step comes next, what technique they should apply. When alignment locks in, measurement disappears. There is nothing left to adjust. This is why alignment often feels anticlimactic. People expect a dramatic internal shift, but what arrives instead is calm acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation, it is integration. Integration means the outcome fits into identity without resistance. Once this happens, timing loses relevance. The system no longer needs to delay because nothing needs preparation anymore. This is the moment when manifestation feels effortless, not because effort was removed, but because friction no longer exists. Friction always comes from misalignment. When alignment locks in, reality reorganizes itself with minimal disturbance. Events fall into place without emotional charge. Opportunities appear without excitement or fear. This is often described as things just worked out. From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, it feels obvious. People often say, "I knew it would happen," but the knowing is not confidence. It is familiarity. The outcome feels familiar because identity has already adjusted. This is why alignment is irreversible once stabilized. When identity expands and normalizes a new baseline, it does not shrink back easily. This is the point where manifestations stop coming and going. They stay. Most people never reach this stage because they mistake alignment for emotional certainty. They chase feelings instead of coherence. Coherence is boring, it lacks drama, it lacks urgency, it lacks emotional reward, but it is powerful. When alignment locks in, you no longer need reassurance. You no longer look for signs. You no longer interpret coincidences. Signs are unnecessary when structure is complete. This is why obsession with signs often delays manifestation. It signals that alignment has not yet stabilized. The system reads this instantly. Alignment does not seek confirmation. It functions without it. This is also why aligned manifestations do not feel like victories. They feel like transitions, like something that was always meant to happen. There is no emotional spike because nothing feels rescued or fixed. Rescue fantasies dissolve at this stage. What remains is integration. Integration allows permanence. This is the final requirement. Once alignment locks in, outcomes no longer need to be protected, chased, or maintained artificially. They sustain themselves naturally. This is the difference between temporary success and stable reality. Temporary success comes from partial alignment. Stable reality comes from full coherence. Full coherence is rare, but when it happens, it changes how reality behaves around you, not dramatically, reliably. This chapter exists to correct the misconception that alignment is something you feel. Alignment is something you become. Once you become it, reality no longer needs to hesitate. Chapter 8. Why some manifestations never leave. There is a difference between something arriving and something remaining. Most people focus obsessively on arrival. They want proof that manifestation works. They want results, signs, movement. But arrival alone has never been the real challenge. Permanence is. Many people have manifested things at some point in their lives: money, relationships, opportunities, recognition, only to lose them later. This creates confusion. They assume they did something wrong, lost alignment, or fell out of favor. But loss is not always failure. Often it is a structural mismatch. Manifestations leave when they are not fully integrated into identity. They arrive through temporary alignment but cannot remain without permanent internal support. Temporary alignment creates temporary reality. Permanent reality requires identity-level incorporation. This is the difference almost no one understands. When something arrives before identity has normalized it, the system must work constantly to hold it in place. This creates strain. Strain destabilizes coherence. Destabilization triggers regression. The system does not punish regression. It restores equilibrium. This restoration often looks like loss, but loss is not rejection. It is correction. The system prioritizes internal consistency over external possession. If something disrupts internal consistency, it cannot stay. This explains why sudden success often collapses. Fame overwhelms identity. Wealth destabilizes emotional regulation. Love triggers unresolved attachment. The outcome was not wrong. The timing was incomplete. True manifestation is not defined by speed. It is defined by sustainability. Sustainability depends on whether identity has already adapted to the outcome before it arrives. When identity adapts first, arrival feels ordinary. There is no shock, no overreaction, no compensatory behavior. This ordinariness is crucial. Extraordinary reactions signal that something does not yet belong. Belonging is the key to permanence. When an outcome belongs to identity, it does not need to be defended. It does not need to be justified. It does not need to be protected through effort. It simply exists. This is why some people maintain wealth effortlessly while others constantly lose it. The difference is not discipline, it is belonging. Wealth that belongs to identity feels neutral. Wealth that does not belong feels heavy. The same applies to relationships, opportunities, peace, and freedom. Anything that feels heavy will eventually fall away. The system does not allow permanent weight. Weight creates instability. Many people try to maintain manifestations through vigilance. They monitor, control, optimize, and protect. This behavior signals insecurity. Insecurity destabilizes permanence. The system interprets this as misalignment and gradually dissolves the outcome. Not abruptly, quietly. People often describe this as things slipping away. They did not slip. They were released. Release restores coherence. This is why permanence only occurs when there is no internal negotiation. When you do not feel the need to prove, secure, or explain the outcome. The absence of internal dialogue is the marker of integration. When something is fully integrated, it does not occupy mental space. You do not think about breathing. You do not think about gravity. You do not think about what is stable. Stability is silent. Manifestations that remain are silent. This silence is often mistaken for lack of appreciation. But appreciation is not excitement. It is ease. Ease indicates belonging. Belonging indicates permanence. This is why the deepest manifestations rarely feel dramatic. They do not rescue you. They do not complete you. They do not redefine you suddenly. They settle in. They become part of the background. When manifestation reaches this stage, it no longer behaves like an event. It behaves like a condition. Conditions do not leave. Events do. This is the final distinction. People chase events. The system delivers conditions. Conditions require identity-level compatibility. Once compatibility is complete, nothing needs to be held together. The outcome remains because it fits. This chapter exists to dissolve the fear of loss. If something leaves, It was not yet permanent. And if it was not permanent, it was not complete. The system does not take away what truly belongs. It only removes what identity has not yet normalized. Once identity catches up, permanence follows naturally, without effort, without vigilance, without fear. Chapter 9, the final adjustment before everything shifts. There is always one last adjustment before manifestation stabilizes. It is rarely dramatic, it is rarely visible, and it is almost never recognized in real time. This adjustment does not involve doing more. It involves releasing a final layer of resistance that feels subtle enough to be mistaken for normal. At this stage, most of the internal work has already been completed. Identity has expanded, regulation has increased, urgency has softened, alignment has locked in, and yet timing still pauses. This pause confuses people. They assume something is wrong because everything feels ready. They stop trying, stop forcing, stop chasing, and still nothing arrives immediately. This is the final test of stability. The last adjustment is not about desire, it is about trust without monitoring. Up to this point, many people still keep a quiet eye on the outcome, not with anxiety, but with expectation. They check internally, they wonder, they sense proximity. This subtle monitoring creates a small disturbance. The system is precise enough to detect it. Monitoring signals that identity still seeks reassurance. Reassurance implies uncertainty. Uncertainty delays final integration. The final adjustment is the release of outcome awareness. This does not mean forgetting the desire. It means removing it from the center of attention. When something is truly integrated, it no longer requires attention. It exists without being referenced. This is the stage where many people unintentionally interfere. They have done everything right, but they keep waiting consciously. Waiting creates orientation toward the future. Orientation toward the future prevents present stabilization. Stabilization only occurs in the present. The system does not finalize outcomes in anticipation. It finalizes them in neutrality. Neutrality is not indifference. It is absence of internal commentary. At this stage, people often experience a sense of emptiness, not dissatisfaction. Emptiness, the space once occupied by desire, techniques, and mental rehearsal opens up. This emptiness can feel uncomfortable. Some mistake it for loss of motivation. Others interpret it as a sign they should re-engage. Re-engagement reintroduces disturbance. The emptiness is not absence, it is readiness. This is the moment when identity fully releases its grip on control. Control was never malicious. It was protective, but protection is no longer necessary here. The final adjustment is allowing life to move without supervision. This is difficult for systems that learned safety through vigilance. Letting life move on its own feels risky. The system waits until vigilance relaxes completely. Once vigilance dissolves, timing collapses. This collapse does not announce itself. It feels ordinary. Sometimes it even feels delayed until after it has already happened. People often realize manifestations arrived only in hindsight. This is intentional. Awareness would destabilize the moment. The system delivers outcomes quietly when observation would interfere. This is why breakthroughs often occur during distraction, rest, routine, or moments of presence. Attention is elsewhere. The system moves freely. The final adjustment requires nothing new. It requires allowing nothingness to exist without filling it. This is where many teachings fail. They encourage constant focus, constant intention, constant reinforcement. Reinforcement is no longer needed. At this stage, reinforcement becomes noise. Noise delays finality. Finality requires silence. This silence is not passive. It is settled. Settled systems do not anticipate. They receive. Receiving does not require readiness checks. It happens naturally when structure is complete. The final adjustment is the removal of the last question. No more when, no more how close, no more is it working. Those questions once guided growth. Now they interfere. When the questions disappear, answers arrive, not symbolically, practically. This is the point where manifestation stops being something you practice and becomes something that happens around you. You are no longer involved, and that is precisely why it works. Chapter 10. The archive closes, the pattern remains. This is where most people expect a conclusion, a summary, a final instruction, a technique to apply. But this archive does not close that way, because what governs manifestation does not operate through instructions. It operates through patterns. Patterns do not end, they persist. Everything revealed in this archive was never meant to be used as a method. It was meant to be recognized as a structure that already exists. There is nothing here to force, nothing to activate, nothing to believe harder. What you have encountered is not a teaching. It is a lens. Once a lens changes, vision cannot return to what it was. This is why true understanding feels irreversible. You cannot unknow what you now see. Manifestation is no longer mysterious once its organizing principles are understood. Delay, timing, identity, regulation, permanence, they form a coherent system. This system does not judge, it does not reward, it does not punish. It stabilizes. Reality moves in favor of stability at all times. When instability exists, movement slows. When stability returns, movement resumes. This has always been the case. Nothing you experienced before this understanding was wasted. Every delay was performing its function. Every pause was reinforcing structure. Every moment of frustration was evidence of preparation, not failure. This reframes the past completely. What once felt like absence becomes evidence of protection. What once felt like resistance becomes proof of intelligence. The system never worked against you. It worked with the version of you that existed at the time. As identity evolves, the system adapts accordingly. This is why no external authority is needed. No ritual, no constant affirmation, no obsession with outcomes. The most powerful shift happens when the system inside you becomes calm enough to stop interfering. Interference was never intentional. It was learned. Letting it go is not loss. It is maturity. Maturity is when you stop negotiating with reality and start cooperating with it. Cooperation does not feel active. It feels settled. At this point, manifestation no longer feels like something you do. It becomes something you notice after it has already integrated. Life rearranges itself quietly around coherence. This is why people who reach this stage rarely speak about it. There is nothing to sell, nothing to prove, nothing to convince. The pattern speaks for itself. If this archive has done its work, you will not leave with excitement. You will leave with clarity. Clarity is subtle. It does not demand attention. It remains. The archive closes here, not because the process ends, but because explanation is no longer necessary. From this point forward, recognition replaces effort. When things move slowly, you will know why. When things arrive suddenly, you will understand how. When things remain, you will recognize permanence. Nothing needs to be chased. Nothing needs to be feared. The system continues operating exactly as it always has. The only difference is that now, you can see it. This is not the end of a journey. It is the removal of confusion, and confusion, once removed, does not return. The archive closes, the pattern remains. Archive closed. This archive is now closed. If this shifted something in you, remain here. Subscribe to access future archives, and leave a comment with what you recognized.